If it's not wages, what is it?
It's skill. China put an enormous focus on manufacturing in what we would call, you and I would call, vocational kind of skills. The U.S. over time began to stop having as many vocational kind of skills.
Okay. Full disclosure here, I'm an Apple shareholder. I've been for decades. There might be many compelling reasons to invest in another country, make your products in another country. Scale might be an issue. The fact that Chinese workers are paid a fraction of American workers, I would think mathematically would be a more compelling issue. But again, that's just me. Justin Danhof joins us now on why he thinks Tim Cook is cooking up something that just ain't so. Justin, you're not buying that.
Well, first of all, at the risk of causing offense, Merry Christmas, Neil. Thanks for having me on.
To you as well.
Well, look, what happened was, first of all, I was surprised that Tim Cook even agreed to sit down with Mr. Rose to do this interview, because Apple relies a lot on secrecy, right? And the Tim Cook reign has just elevated that level of secrecy. So when he's called to the floor on a very clear issue that, you know, what are the realities of the global economy? The realities are, it's not just the labor costs in China that are cheaper. It's the shipping costs. It's the regulatory costs. It's the fact that in the U.S., our manufacturing plants wouldn't put up suicide nets. So, you know, there's lots of factors that go beyond the labor. So it was very interesting that when Charlie Rose just pointed out a very simple fact of the modern world economy that most Business 101 students know, that Cook got very defensive on this issue. And it speaks to a pattern in the Cook administration of Apple, if we can call it an administration, where anytime someone criticizes Apple, they get very defensive and very reflexive. And it was interesting, his response was to attack American workers. We could take every single student in college right now, every student that's majoring in everything from philosophy to underwater basket weaving, and put them into a vocational type skill, so to speak, and that's not going to make a difference, because, pardon the pun, but the die has been cast with the U.S. regulatory regime.
Well, but to be fair, now here's where, listening to the whole interview, he does talk about our tax system and how archaic it is and how arcane it is, and particularly, I think it talked about it's not even suited for the digital age. And there is some truth to that, but I agree with you insofar as using that as a justification to go abroad and do all of that. But I also think that if this were a pharmaceutical company trying to set up shop, let's say, in Ireland, to take advantage of a lower tax rate or cheaper labor, we've already seen examples how that is treated very differently in the media than is Apple. And I take nothing away from Apple's products. They're very cool. Apple stock, it's very cool. And as a decades-long shareholder, I could attest to that. Having said that, though, I know some blarney when it's thrown at me. And the fact of the matter is that this is a compelling reason to look at alternatives to the United States. But he does raise an issue that become less compelling if the tax treatment, the regulatory treatment here was a lot more favorable. Because it's not, it's just another reason for the Tim Cooks and others of the world to say sayonara, right?
Well, absolutely. And in that instance, he did bring up a good point. But again, he mixed a little bit of half-truth in with hypocrisy in raising one of the valid business points of the entire interview, where he gets very defensive when Mr. Rose brings up the tax issue and says, we're not a tax dodger, that's political, CRAP. Crap. Well, Mr. Cook, then you go on to explain in the interview that we have lots of money offshore that we'd be happy to bring home. Well, 6 1/2 dozen, right? That's dodging taxes, legally, mind you. Apple's doing absolutely nothing wrong, and I would admit that our corporate tax rate in the United States is probably what is criminal. So in that instance, he has a valid business point, and he should be a bigger leader on this issue, frankly, and I hope that he does so in the future.
Well, just, state the obvious. You're there, you make great stuff, you can make it a lot cheaper abroad. That is your right, but don't try to put another reason to it. I mean, although he's right, and John Ratzenberg and others are right, that we need to encourage basic skill sets. Shop was a big thing in this country, but don't use that as the means to justify what to many is just as objectionable as when a big pharma company does it. All right, it is what it is. Thank you, my friend. Merry Christmas again. Be well.
You too, Neil.
All right, we have a lot more.